So the State of the Union was you know, it was fine. The early polls that came in seemed to be good for Donald Trump, and it was just one of those amazing moments where you get to.
Well, he had the room going. I mean, he can't. Firstly, he did a good hybrid of like working off the script and just being Trump. And then he was funny when he had the Democrats clapping, that he was kind of like, you know, he was mocking them a little bit, like you see, look, even you're on board. It felt to me, it had that vibe. I've seen this it's like a movie trope of that dude who's kind of like a player, and some chick's like, I would never go out with him. I would never go out with him. And then finally he gets her on a date and she goes, oh, this guy really is charming. Now I see why everyone fucks him. Yeah. That's what Trump was like at that. They wanted to hate him the whole time. And then once you're in a room with him and he gets everyone going, you're like, wow, I get it now.
He's got a weird quality to him. You know what? He did a good, if we're just judging, you know, like not my opinion aside, just as a politician, as far as politics go, what he was able to do that I thought was, that was good was he was able to make it a speech that didn't come off as a hard right speech. And it wasn't. I mean, he said at the beginning, he goes, this isn't a Republican speech. And it really wasn't. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there I didn't like, you know, advocating for like the infrastructure bill and like all this kind of shit. It's like, you know, he's like sitting there saying, we'll never be a socialist country, by the way. Here, we're going to do an infrastructure bill. It's kind of like, all right, Trump. I mean, I liked the socialist line, but so he was able to give this speech that at least seemingly was an attempt to appeal to everyone. Now, the truth is with Donald Trump, like we all just know in our lives, there's really only so much appealing to everyone that's going to get you anywhere. I mean, think about just personally the people you know who hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump could cure cancer tomorrow, and they're still going to hate Donald Trump. You're not convincing too many of the resistance to stop resisting. That's probably not going to happen. But the speech still appeared. It's like, look, he's celebrating women in the workplace. He's being gracious to the other side. He's doing these things, but he still did get in his red meat to his base. Like he was, you know, he said we're going to build the wall. Although I you know, at some point, it's like with ending the wars. At some point, you got to do this. Like you keep saying, we're gonna do it. It's been years now. If we're gonna, it's like, okay, when's this happening? And I think it's very strange, and revealing that Trump waited till the Democrats took Congress to make the hard pitch for the wall. I mean, he talked about it all through the campaign. Then he brought it up a little bit, but he had all three branches. I mean, Donald Trump could have gotten the wall built. He could have gotten it built when he had all three. Excuse me. I made the AOC mistake. But when he had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But he, you know, because all he had to do was say, we're building this wall. This is what I ran on. This is what I won on. You guys have to get behind me on this. I'm only asking for $5 billion or whatever he's saying. And if any of the Republicans tried to give him shit, I mean, they would just be, it'd be political suicide. It'd be like, okay, well, you're going to be getting phone calls all day long. Because if it's just Republicans, an overwhelming majority of people want that wall built. And the only evidence of that you need was the Republican primary, where he was the only one saying build a wall, and he destroyed everybody. But he waited till now, so we go through this whole shutdown mess and all this stuff. But anyway, but so he did a good job of like throwing out a little bit of red meat to his base, and still kind of coming off. And this is why I guess all those polls that came back immediately afterwards seemed to show that like it was like 76% approved of the speech, over 70% agreed with his views on immigration, even in one of the polls. And the best part of the night for me was listening to the mainstream media guys have to report that information. It was really amazing. It was, oh God, they would just like on NBC and CBS, and
they just had to go, and 30% of the nation didn't agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, the looks on their faces, they would just be real like somber all of a sudden, and they'd go, oh, the polls out, and then some of them would like rationalize it, and they'd be like, well, you know, typically in the State of the Union, it's you know, it's your supporters who are watching anyway, so it's not like it's just, you know, shit like that.
Do they always do rebuttals immediately following? That's every year. Doesn't matter who the party is.
As long as I can remember.
That seems to me to be a weird format, because I would think you got to hear the guy out, and then maybe
No.
The next day, think it through.
No, you're ready to go.
Hey, I fact checked a couple things, and here's what I don't agree with. How do you rebut the thing? You know what I mean? Because then, firstly, the lady who did the rebuttal looked like Cleveland was going through a gender change. That's so I gotta say that off the bat. And then secondly, like, who the fuck is she? She used to be a
She was a state senator who lost a gubernatorial race.
So this is your
and that's who they go with. And then, God, it's so fucking weird. So so she that's really funny. She goes, "My name is Cleveland Brown." So she comes up, and she's like half the speech is about her personal story. And it's all about, it is really, really fucking weird, man. Like, I've said this many times before, but as much shit as the alt-right guys get with just being too focused on race, and it's like, oh God, you guys are obsessed with race or whatever. And by the way, I do kind of believe that it's not, I have a lot of these like alt-right people who still like listen to my show, like are upset with me that I don't talk about race more. And they always, by the way, this is a real quality of the alt-right, is they project on everyone who they kind of like but doesn't really agree with them that we all secretly agree with them but just don't talk about it on our shows. And they're like, well, Dave knows what's up. He just doesn't talk about it on the shows. It's like, guys, this is the dumbest shit ever, okay? Listen, whether or not you see it this way, to a left-wing person, I'm the same as you. It's not the truth, but to them, I'm Richard Spencer. Tucker Carlson's Richard Spencer. We're all the same thing to them. We're the racists. That's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Mitt Romney was a racist to them. Everybody who's to the right of Bernie Sanders is a fucking racist to them. It's like, it doesn't matter. So I wouldn't, and my audience is like completely independent. I wouldn't fucking hold back. I tell you guys what I fucking think. And anyway, they do this all the time. It's like, Tucker Carlson's really a white nationalist. He just won't admit it or something like that. Or, it's, whatever. It's all kind of silly. But for the people who give them so much shit about like being hyper-focused on race, there is nobody more hyper-focused on race than just the mainstream media and left-wing like college kids and college professors. I mean, they're like obsessed with it to a point where this woman clearly was speaking as she is giving the official rebuttal to the State of the Union because she's a black woman. That's that. I mean, take that away. There's zero chance that she goes and gives that. Really? A local state politician is going to be your national spokeswoman? Like, there's just no way. There's no way. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that shit. I was watching when Kamala Harris had her first big like campaign speech, and I was watching MSNBC afterward, and it was like amazing. They don't even try to pretend. I mean, they see people as their race and gender first and nothing else. I mean, right away they'll come back to the studio and they're like, so guys, reaction to the speech. And they're like, well, you saw people of all different colors there. There were blacks, there were Asians, there were people in the LGBT community. It's like, just, that's your first impression of the speech. But maybe part of it is also because I'm from New York City, that I just look at that crowd and I'm like, yeah, it's a crowd of people. I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're from like, I don't know, Montana or something like that, then you'd be like, oh, wow, look at all those black people there. But really, none of these people in the mainstream media are from fucking Montana. It's all New York and LA people. And they're like, oh, look at the diversity in the crowd. Like, I don't know, have you been on the subway? Yeah, diversity. It's a fucking thing. There's different types of people. Yeah, how about what she said?
And none of the homeless people I live with on the E train were represented. I didn't see any of them in that crowd. How diverse was it really?
Yeah, well, that's
you want to see diversity, take the E train with me at 12 a.m.
No, they don't like that type of diversity. They don't like that type. That's a little too diverse. Anyway, it's just really weird. And to see this woman come up and like talk about her personal story so much, I thought it was very like, who gives a shit? Who really gives a shit about your story? Like, we're talking about the country, the nation, what's good for the people, what policies we're going to take. And all they've got is like, he's for racism and we're against racism. As if that is some like overwhelming problem.
No, I was a little disappointed. I didn't hear one racist dog whistle in the whole speech.
Oh, you weren't listening closely enough.
Was it there?
Oh, they were all there. Come on. All those things. Remember when he said he was great nations don't fight endless wars?
That was racist?
Classic racist.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That went right over my head.
He was basically saying white nations don't fight endless wars. Like, yeah. No, I'm sure the people who, this is the brilliance of saying somebody's dog whistling, is that you get to decide whenever they're being racist. They don't actually have to say anything racist at all. They can just speak their mind.